appears that I clicked the streaming button before I got batteries in my microphone. Haha, welcome. Yoga with Chance here at the Virtual Y. Thanks for coming back, tuning in, checking us out. Make sure to check out all the other offerings that the Virtual Y has got. Appreciate you and your time today. So with this practice that I want to guide us through today, we're going to focus on the simplicity of slowing down. Very simple techniques. A little mix of Qigong, which is an ancient energy work of just noticing the meridians or the way that energy flows through your body in an attempt to soften, to ease the flow of energy and to unblock those places that might be tight or trapped or tense. So first thing we're going to do is build the breath, because I like the breath as the anchor of the practice. It's the thing you always come back to if you forget what you're doing or you find yourself distracted or whatever the case is. Bringing your attention back to the breath ensures a place to come back to in the here and now, because your breath is happening in the here and now. Your mind, not so much. Your mind might be happening here and now, but it's sending its attention to the future or the past or another place. So bringing all of that attention back into the breath is the medicine. It's the anchor of our attention, the place that we can always come back to. So how are we going to do this? Breathe in through the nose, slowly. Notice the details of the breath. What does it feel like? Where does it go to when you breathe in? Breathe out slowly with control. Notice, where does it come from? Where does it go? Not gonna sing Cotton Eye Joe right now. Breathe back in through the nose. Try to find a little bit more space without strain, without overdoing it. Just finding a little bit more space, and when you breathe out, do the same thing. Without straining, see if you can breathe out a little bit more than you did the first time. So we're gonna keep on just focusing on the breath, bringing our lungs, filling way down to the bottom of our lungs and to the top of our lungs, and exhaling in a nice, controlled, thoughtful manner. Notice you already might start feeling worked. It might feel like a lot of effort to slow down your breath. It might feel a little uncomfortable because these muscles might not get used very often. It might just be, you might start getting lightheaded or dizzy, or all of that is very common side effects, I guess, from noticing the breath and then paying attention to the practice. And if you're not feeling any different at all by paying attention to the breath, that's absolutely okay too. If you're aware of your breath, you're getting the benefits. Next, let's focus on our spine. What do you notice about the spine? Does it feel kind of pinched or slumped in the low back? We spend a lot of time kind of slumping our low back. See if we can roll the tailbone down to the ground and pull up on the crown of the head, lengthening from the low back. See what kind of work that takes as you still breathe in and breathe out. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. Let every exhale kind of let the shoulders melt a little bit more. Very good. So we're just breathing and noticing, right? Let's get into a little movement. This is a nice repetitive practice where we're going to be moving very slowly, and once again just focusing on the details. There's so many things to pay attention to in the simplest of movements, especially with this breath. There's so many things to pay attention to with our breath, so many things to pay attention to with our subtle movement. So let's start with our hands like we're cupping a ball. like a ball of light. Take a full exhale here. Kind of feel that ball. We're kind of throwing it back and forth between the hands. It's there. There's some type of weight or heat or light that we're imagining, sure, but it's there. On your next inhale, slowly expand that ball of light to like arm's width distance. And then on your exhale, bring that ball of light back together. Feel it in the palms of your hands. Inhale, reaching the arms wide. Exhale, kind of lead with your elbows as your hands come back in. Inhale, lead with your elbows as your arms go out. Exhale, just kind of forming that ball of light. We're going to do this for about 10 breaths. Now notice, are you still sitting up tall? Is your breath still expanding a little bit more, lower down into your lungs and higher up into your lungs? You start to notice any work or heat in the shoulders, the arms, the neck. Any stiffness, any resistance. With every breath. Building more of this light. You can feel it. Your fingertips, your palms. Do you feel anything there? That's all right if you don't. We're keeping on just checking to see if we feel anything there. Because you might not right now, but then all of a sudden it surprises you. Oh, I can feel it there. We'll take about 5 more of these. We're moving very slowly, very gracefully. See if you can lead with your elbows in each direction. And the inhales, your arms go out. On your exhales, your arms go in. Notice, have you been distracted? Are your arms still moving? Is your breath still big? Or is your mind just back to that routine thinking? That's okay, because the practice is to recognize the routine, the nature of our mind, which wants to go somewhere else. But the practice is simply bringing it back to these basic foundations of being here and now. On this last one here, we bring that ball of light back together. Maybe, toss it between the hands a little bit. Feel that weight. Feel what's changed. Oh, it's there. It's there. You did that. Let's place one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, like we're just pulling that ball of light into our chest. Feel the heart. Feel the ribs, the diaphragm, the belly, whatever you feel in the lower hand and the upper hand. On this next inhale, just breathe into that lower hand first. Fill that hand up with light. And then secondly, we're breathing into that upper hand. Both hands filling with light. And as we breathe out, we remain sitting up tall, but just softening the shoulders, rooting down through the seat. Couple more breaths here. We're filling that lower hand first. Upper hand second. Keep relaxing the shoulders. Full exhales, noticing what's there. Good. You can bring your hands to your knees. Always, if you need to, move in any way. Not many people can sit cross-legged. I should point that out. If you can't sit cross-legged, don't worry about it. You're not doing it wrong. You can have your legs out. You can be, readjusting your legs to whatever's comfortable. You can do that whole part of the practice from a chair if that's more better in your body. But what we're going to do next is a very simple, gentle forward fold. Maybe if you have a big pillow or a cushion of some kind, you could place it on your legs, like right here. for a little support with your body. We're gonna sit up tall, straighten our legs as best we can. Try to press the backs of your knees against the ground. And if you can, point the toes back toward the face. Feel what muscles light up. Probably your quads, probably these muscles across your shins right here. And maybe you already feel a lengthening of the hamstrings and the calves. So when we sit up tall, notice rounding down through the sole or the seat there, left side, right side. Sitting up tall is a whole group of muscles that has to lift our spine up. And from here, on your exhale, we're gently going to lean the heart forward for a forward fold. Now what you might notice right away, you notice the stretch in the legs. It's totally normal. But if you don't feel any stretching in the back, maybe put a little bend in the knees so you can fold forward until there is stretching in that low back. And not everybody can reach their toes, so don't worry if you don't reach your toes. You can put your hands on the ground and gently creep those hands forward if and when your body invites you in a little deeper. So from here, what I want you to pay attention to is that low back hinge. Just try to keep pulling your belly up, your heart forward towards your knees. Perhaps you want to tuck your chin, pull your shoulders away from your ears, noticing how that stretch might show up in your shoulder blades, those rhomboid muscles. Keep breathing very deeply because the breath is changing the physical reality of this pose within your body, because as the lungs change shape, they're stretching these different muscles. You're feeling a squeeze and a release, that natural give and take of the breath. But when your body's in this shape, that natural give and take of the breath stretches different muscles. On every exhale, just see, can you lean in a little deeper? Remembering you never need to find pain in this practice. We're just in our comfort zone, but leaning on the edge of it. We're in our comfort zone, but we're leaning on the edge of it. Just a couple more breaths here. If you need to ease out, if you found yourself too deeply in and it's getting distractingly uncomfortable, that's all right, ease out. We want a little bit of discomfort, just enough for it to be just enough distracting that we have to keep putting our attention back onto it. Because when we get uncomfortable, our mind naturally goes to its routines, thinks of something somewhere else, thinks of a self-limiting belief about how I can't do this, or this is just like so-and-so that I couldn't do, or it just reminds you of another uncomfortable situation in your life and immediately makes us want to get out of the pose. That is seeing our routine way of thinking being challenged and being okay with that. But once again, this doesn't have to be painful or torturous or excruciating. It should just be a very tiny bit of discomfort, and then observe how the mind wants to wiggle and squirm and get out of that situation. And all we're doing is just breathing through it. On your next inhale, we're going to walk the hands in a little bit. Sit up tall, open your chest. You can even put a little weight into the hands. Lift up through the heart, maybe tilt your chin back a little bit. Ooh, breathe deep into the belly. And check on those internal locks that I talk about pretty frequently in my practices, called the bandhas. Your bandhas include your pelvic floor, that Kegel type lift, drawing up and in on the soft tissue of the bottom, and also your Uddiyana bandha, the upward flying lock, which is simply pulling in on your belly button. So we're like sucking in on our belly. Seeing what happens when we kind of pull in on our bottom and pull in on our belly and still breathe deeply. What unpacks? What do we reveal? What's uncomfortable? And notice how it changes through the cycle of each breath. Good. So we did some seated stuff. Why don't we take a seated twist while we're up? So this one can be done with legs in front of you, or if you have a little bit more hip mobility, we can pull the legs crossed or semi-crossed or stacked or even lotus position depending on your hips. But you got to meet yourself where you're at without hurting yourself, because all transformation takes time. And that's what the breath gives us. It's a measurement of time, but also that measurement of subtle transformation that takes place with every breath. So however we have our legs here, we're going to take our left hand, place it onto our right knee or right hip, depending on where you're at. Take our right, so we got a left hand on the right knee, right hand comes to the ground. Prop yourself up on that hand. It can be close to the body, it can be far away from the body, it can be pretty far behind you, or it can be right at your side. We're going to look out over the right shoulder and just experiment how far we can twist before we start coming up to that edge of our comfort zone. Some of us might not be able to twist very far at all. Maybe we'll be mostly pointed forward still. That's okay. Maybe you can't turn your head very far and your chin's not anywhere near your shoulder. That's okay. Once you find that edge, you're doing it. And then you just breathe and observe. Maybe the amount of discomfort arises when we breathe in, but then it feels a little looser when we breathe out. Then the next time we breathe in, it might not be as uncomfortable because we just kind of eased into a little space. And if you're not noticing any type of transformation, ease off even more. Because we don't want our guard going up any higher, we want to let our guard down. That's how we let go of the tension, the blockage, the limitation that we've been holding. That's what this discomfort is. That's what this restriction and tension is. It's just places in our body that we haven't been to in a while. So they're full of junk. But every breath, we're unpacking a little bit of that junk and reclaiming this space in our body. We'll come back to center. Let's take that right hand, place it onto the left knee. Take your left hand, place it onto the ground where you feel supported. Maybe it's right next to your hip. Maybe it's a little further out. Maybe it's a little behind you. I'm going to gently look over that left shoulder. And like I said, maybe you can't get your chin over that shoulder. We're just looking toward it. Sit up tall. Notice the breath. Every single breath is changing your inner world. That sound of your breath soothe you. Notice every time you're distracted, every time your mind wanders. There's nothing wrong with it wandering, but that is the invitation to invite your attention back to the present moment. Noticing your mind as wandered is consciousness. Your mind wandering isn't consciousness, it just happens. But becoming aware that it has happened is becoming present. So don't judge your mind for wanting to do what it does all day, which is wander from thing to thing. We have a lot of practice in a wandering mind. What we don't have a lot of opportunities to practice is intentional focus, conscious awareness of the present moment. So, once again, be patient with yourself. Don't judge yourself. You notice your mind has wandered, you're not failing, you're not doing it wrong, you're doing it exactly right. You're practicing, noticing where your mind is, bringing it back. Let's make our way onto our back. I'm going to take a spine strengthener here, a quick hip stretch, and then a very gentle, easy shavasana, just a minute or two of meditation. Even though this whole practice is meditative, you'll see just stillness is new. So let's see. Bridge pose. Bring the heels in close to the seat. Lift your hips up off the ground as high as you can before you feel strained. So it should feel like work, but it shouldn't feel like too much work to the point where you're struggling. Next, you can press your hands into the mat, or even interlace your fingers behind your back. Tuck your chin, bring the back of the neck onto the ground. Roll the knees towards each other. Pull in on the pelvic floor. Breathe into the belly. And gently lower down. We'll rock the knees from side to side. We're going to do that pose one more time. Plant the heels in close to the seat. Lift the hips up off the ground. Roll the knees towards each other. Pull in on the pelvic floor, that Kegel lift. Pull in on your bottom. Breathe into your belly. Feel that work in the low back. Pull your heart towards your chin. Feel engaged, feel strong, but don't feel strained or overwhelmed. You can always ease off to the point where the comfort and discomfort are balanced and the discomfort is not unbearable. That's what we don't want in our practice. We want to be very comfortable in our practice as we practice being slightly uncomfortable, not too uncomfortable. Let's hug the knees into the chest, squeeze yourself in tight. Let's lift the feet straight up over the hips. And just make some circles in your ankles, maybe make some fists with your toes. Moving around those feet at the ankles, feel the calves, the leg muscles. You know, do whatever feels good. We're letting gravity kind of drain out the legs, maybe a kick or a wiggle or whatever. Tug the knees into the chest. Give yourself a big squeeze. Notice the length of your spine on the floor. Notice the size of your breath changing the shape of your lungs. Final Shavasana. Lay flat on your back. Arms wide, legs wide. If you're real uncomfortable on the ground here, maybe you want to place a cushion or something to lift the knees up a little bit, and that might help your low back get a little more surface area on the ground. But then just be soft. Imagine yourself like a puddle, just melting, spreading out onto the ground. Anywhere that feels like it's holding or clenching or tight, just let it go. You can have your breath still big and expansive, or you can just let your breath do its own thing too. As long as you keep aware of where your attention is. You might notice yourself get distracted time after time after time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you notice it, bring your attention back to the body, to the here and now, to the qualities of the breath, to the sensations you're feeling, to the sensations you might want to feel, or you intend to feel. Doesn't matter how many times your attention leaves. We're practicing bringing it back. That's the lesson. We have have much more practice of our attention being somewhere else. We have little practice from day to day to have all of our attention right here and right now. Hug your knees into your chest when you're ready. Give yourself another big squeeze. Feel your body with some gratitude. Fill yourself with that feeling of just thank you, body, thank you. I'll give you more love tomorrow or, an hour from now. But, notice how different your body feels just by paying some attention. And you can keep on adding more attention every day, simply but intentionally. You can roll down onto your right or left side and return to a comfortable seated position. Spine long, shoulders relaxed. Namaste.